I have often wondered what truly betrays a man. Not the words he utters, for language is too often a mask. It is the twitch of an eyelid, the tightening of a jaw, the sudden narrowing of the eyes. A friend may say, "I am happy for you," while his eyes flash with envy before the smile returns. A lover may whisper, "I forgive you," while the brow tightens with resentment still alive. A rival may applaud, but in the corner of his mouth contempt flickers like a shadow. Do you see what this means? The body is a traitor to the lie. It rebels against the tyranny of the tongue. For an instant it confesses, and then it is gone. But once you notice, you can never unsee. You will know when flattery is false, when promises are hollow, when affection is poisoned. Knowledge here is both weapon and wound. And yet, better the sharp edge of truth than the soft pillow of delusion. For every micro-expression is a confession the mouth dared not speak. Every subtle cue a door left ajar into the secret chamber of the soul. I have often wondered what it means to read another human being, not from the surface of his words, but from the deeper pulse beneath his skin. What does it mean to strip away the polite mask, the rehearsed smile, the courteous lie? It means confronting the raw truth of human intention, the hidden will that trembles in the nerves, the fleeting betrayals that flicker across the face in less than the blink of an eye. These betrayals are what I call the true alphabet of the soul, written not in language but in micro-expressions, flashes so brief they seem to vanish into nothingness, yet they carry the weight of all that man seeks to conceal. When we enter this subject, we are entering a battlefield. Every man speaks of honesty, yet every man lies. Every man presents himself as transparent, yet every man hides. Even the most ordinary conversation is a duel of masks, one person hiding envy behind applause, another hiding contempt behind courtesy, another hiding fear behind laughter. But the body is a traitor to the lie. The muscles do not obey the tongue. For an instant they rebel. The brow furrows, the nostril flares, the lip curls, and then it is gone. To catch these moments is to stand at the edge of human truth, seeing what most are too blind to notice. My friend Charles Darwin, long before our modern instruments, already sensed this rebellion of the body. In his study of expressions in man and animals, he noted how fear, anger, and joy reveal themselves in posture, eyes, and breath. But what Darwin glimpsed, psychology has now measured. The research of Paul Ekman has shown us that microexpressions last less than half a second, often as little as 1/25th of a second. They are not voluntary. They cannot be faked, rehearsed, or suppressed. They erupt like sparks from the inner fire of emotion. To read these sparks is to see beyond the mask of culture, beyond the disguise of etiquette. Imagine a politician saying, "I care about your suffering," while in that instant his upper lip tightens in disgust. Imagine a lover saying, "I forgive you," while the corner of her mouth twitches with contempt. Imagine a friend saying, "I am happy for you," while his eyes flash with envy before the smile returns. Each of these moments is a doorway into the truth. Those who train their eyes to see them will never again live as dupes in the theater of appearances. But let me tell you the cost of this vision. To see hidden intentions is to bear a weight. For once you know, you cannot unknow. Once you have seen the twitch of envy in a friend's smile, you will never again believe in his pure goodwill. Once you have seen contempt in the eyes of a lover, forgiveness will forever taste of poison. Once you have seen fear in the speech of a leader, you will never again believe in his courage. Knowledge here is both weapon and wound. My friend Soren Kierkegaard spoke of dread as the dizziness of freedom. Likewise, this perception brings dread, for it shows you what others cannot bear to acknowledge. Yet I would not spare you this dread, for better to face the storm than to live forever in a painted sky. Better to see the knife in the hand of the smiling man than to turn your back in ignorance. Truth may wound, but illusion kills. Let us descend deeper. What is a micro-expression? It is the involuntary, unconscious, universal display of emotion. Across all cultures, the same muscles betray the same passions. Disgust wrinkles the nose. Anger narrows the eyes. Fear widens them. Sadness pulls down the corners of the lips. Surprise lifts the brows. Contempt curls one side of the mouth. Joy lights the eyes. These are not learned, they are written into the body of man as universal as hunger and thirst. When Paul Ekman showed photographs of expressions to tribes who had never encountered Western culture, they recognized them instantly. And when he studied their own expressions, they matched those of the most urban citizens. The face is a universal language, older than speech itself. But microexpressions are not the whole story. Subtle cues, the lingering shadows of thought, also reveal hidden intentions. A man saying yes while shaking his head imperceptibly. A woman speaking of happiness while her tone carries tension. A child insisting on innocence while his eyes dart away too quickly. These are not microexpressions alone, but the wider web of cues: posture, movement, hesitation, speed of speech, tone of voice. To read hidden intentions, one must read not letters alone, but the whole page of the body. Here lies a paradox. Most people already notice these things unconsciously. They say, "I have a gut feeling he is lying," or "I sense she does not really forgive me." What they call intuition is often the brain's lightning-fast recognition of microcues. The body notices before the conscious mind does. Yet the philosopher refuses to stop at vague intuition. He trains the eye, sharpens the perception, brings to light what was previously only a shadow in feeling. In this, he becomes a scientist of the soul. I recall the words of my friend Schiller. The body is the visible soul. When he wrote this, he could not have imagined the detail with which psychology would later confirm his insight. Consider how guilt reveals itself, not only in lowered eyes, but in slower speech, in pauses too long between words, in shoulders that slump as if crushed by invisible weight. Consider how contempt appears, the lip curling for less than half a second, a sneer that vanishes before it is consciously perceived. Consider how desire appears, the pupils dilating, the body leaning forward even when the words deny it. Each of these is the visible soul, made flesh in 1,000 fleeting signs. And what of lies? A man may lie with his tongue, but his body whispers the truth. Research shows that liars add unnecessary detail, over-explain, and rehearse their tone to sound convincing. But while the story may be polished, the body cannot be polished. The gaze flees, the blink rate changes, the voice trembles ever so slightly. The lie is an actor rehearsed, but the truth is a shadow that cannot be expelled. Those who learn to read the shadow hold power. Power, this is the true core of our inquiry. Why do we seek to read hidden intentions? Not merely for curiosity, but for survival, for strength, for freedom. The man who sees only words is a slave of appearances. The man who sees intentions is a master of realities. He is not tricked by the smile of the traitor, nor swayed by the flattery of the false. He walks through the world as one awake among dreamers. Yet let me pause here, for I know what you fear. You fear that to live this way is to live in suspicion, to see enemies everywhere. No, that is not what I teach. Suspicion is blindness disguised as vision. True perception does not invent enemies, it reveals reality. And reality contains both hostility and love, both envy and loyalty, both contempt and admiration. The one who perceives truly does not live in paranoia. He lives in clarity. He knows when to trust and when not to. He knows when love is pure and when it is poisoned. He knows because he sees. But seeing is not easy. It requires attention. Most men stumble through life half asleep, their eyes dulled by routine, their ears deafened by noise. They see only the obvious, the shouted, the theatrical. They miss the subtle, the fleeting, the true. To awaken is to sharpen perception, to discipline the senses, to notice what others dismiss. To awaken is to see the trembling lip, the darting eye, the hesitant tone, and to know what they mean. My friend William James, the great psychologist, once wrote that attention is the very essence of will. Where a man directs his attention, there his will resides. To learn to read hidden intentions is, therefore, an act of will. It is not merely a skill, but a transformation of being. You become one who notices, one who refuses the sleep of the herd, one who demands truth from appearances. There will be moments when you will wish you had not learned, when you will see the envy in a brother's congratulations, the contempt in a lover's kiss, the fear in a leader's bravado. You will wish for ignorance, for the bliss of not knowing. But ignorance is a narcotic, and narcotics destroy. Better the pain of truth than the comfort of illusion. And here, my listener, let me insert a plea not for myself, but for the growth of thought. If you find these reflections piercing, if you find them awakening something long asleep within you, then commit yourself to this pursuit. Do not drift back into slumber. Keep seeking, keep questioning, keep attending. This is the true subscription of the mind, not to a channel or a man, but to the discipline of awakening. To align yourself with the few who prefer vision to blindness is to step into a rare brotherhood, and in that brotherhood lies strength. Now let us turn to the deeper layers, for microexpressions do not exist in isolation. They are fragments of a larger pattern, and the pattern reveals the architecture of hidden will. A single flicker may tell you of anger, but the sequence of cues tells you of intention. The narrowing eyes followed by clenched fists, this is not just anger, it is aggression. The smile followed by eyes that fail to soften, this is not joy, it is sarcasm. The long gaze, the parted lips, the leaning forward, this is not politeness, it is desire. Patterns matter, for the soul writes not in single letters but in sentences upon the body. This is why the study of hidden intentions is not merely a curiosity for detectives or interrogators. It is a philosophy of life. To read the patterns is to engage with human beings as they are, not as they pretend to be. To live otherwise is to live in the fog of illusions, where betrayal surprises you, where envy wounds you, where contempt humiliates you. To live awake is to anticipate, to discern, to stand firm. And what of morality? Some will say it is cruel to see too much, to expose what others hide. But I say it is more cruel to let lies rule, to let deception govern, to let falsehood win. To see is not to condemn, it is to understand. When you perceive the sadness beneath a smile, you may offer compassion. When you perceive the envy behind applause, you may guard yourself. When you perceive the fear beneath anger, you may choose mercy. Knowledge is not cruelty, it is power, and power can be guided by wisdom. So let us continue walking through this labyrinth. Imagine a dinner table. Around it sit friends, lovers, rivals. Words flow, laughter echoes, compliments are exchanged. Yet beneath the surface, storms rage. One envies the other's success. Another resents an old wound. Another hides desire for someone not his own. If you look only at words, you see harmony. If you look at microexpressions and subtle cues, you see the truth. Contempt in a fleeting curl of the lip, desire in a lingering gaze, envy in a momentary tightening of the jaw. The dinner table is not harmony but theater, and only the awakened eye sees the drama behind the curtain. This is life itself, a theater where masks dominate but where the body betrays. To live without learning to read is to remain a spectator fooled by actors. To live with awakened sight is to be the critic who sees through the performance. There is a peculiar cruelty in truth. Once you taste it, you cannot spit it out. You may close your eyes, but the vision burns on the inside. In the same way, once you train yourself to notice microexpressions, to hear the whispers in tone, to feel the tension beneath a smile, you will forever be changed. The ordinary man sees harmony where the philosopher sees conflict, trust where the philosopher sees calculation, love where the philosopher sees both tenderness and resentment entwined. Is this burden too great? Perhaps. Yet the burden of blindness is greater still, for blindness leads not only to ignorance but to betrayal. Let us begin with anger, for anger is the simplest mask to pierce. When anger is openly expressed, the eyes narrow, the brows pull together, the lips press tight, the voice sharpens like a blade. But when anger is hidden, when civility forces it underground, it flickers for only an instant. A tightening of the eyelid, a flash in the gaze, a subtle grinding of the jaw. I have seen men say, "Of course I respect you," while the muscles of contempt dance like shadows across their faces. These are the tells of the inner storm, the lightning before the thunder. And what of fear? Fear widens the eyes, yes, but it does more. It alters the cadence of the voice, thins the breath, betrays itself in hesitation. A soldier may say, "I am not afraid." But the tremor in his words, the stiffness in his hands, reveal otherwise. Fear is the most contagious of expressions, for to see fear in another awakens fear in ourselves. This is why leaders strive so desperately to conceal it, for fear spreads like wildfire in a dry forest. Yet concealment is almost impossible. Even the greatest actor cannot stop the dilation of the pupil, the rapid beat of the pulse. Contempt is subtler still. Unlike anger, which bursts forth, contempt hides in the corner of the mouth, in the faint sneer and the dismissive gaze. It is one of the most dangerous signals, for it corrodes relationships silently. My friend John Gottman, though not a philosopher but a psychologist of marriage, found that contempt was the greatest predictor of divorce. Why? Because contempt is not just disagreement, it is dismissal, the silent declaration. You are beneath me. When you see contempt flicker on the face of another, you are witnessing the death of respect. No apology can easily erase it, for contempt wounds deeper than anger. Sadness too has its cues. The lowering of eyelids, the corners of the lips drawn downward, the shoulders slumped beneath invisible weight. But sadness, unlike anger or contempt, often invites compassion. To see it is to be moved unless one's heart is hardened. Yet when sadness is denied, it betrays itself in long pauses, in eyes that avoid contact, in voices that crack though the words say, "I am fine." To read sadness in the concealed state is to know when to offer tenderness, even when the mask says otherwise. Joy, the most radiant of expressions, also betrays itself when false. A genuine smile engages the muscles around the eyes, producing the warmth of the so-called Dutch-chin smile. A false smile, crafted by the lips alone, is cold and brittle. The difference is small but unmistakable. You will see it in a politician who smiles only with his mouth, in a rival whose congratulations sound hollow. Joy cannot be faked fully. The eyes are the true mirror. Why do these expressions exist at all? Why does the body betray the mind? Because truth is older than speech. Long before men had words, they had faces, voices, and gestures. These were the instruments of survival, the language of tribes, the signals of threat or trust. A widened eye meant danger, a smile meant safety. To suppress them entirely would be to suppress our evolutionary inheritance. Thus, even when we try to lie, the body still speaks, because the body is not the invention of civilization, but the inheritance of nature. My friend William James suggested that emotions are not just inner states but embodied experiences, that we feel fear because we tremble, that we feel anger because we clench. Modern neuroscience has given some support to this, showing how bodily states and emotions are intertwined. To observe another's body, then, is not merely to see a reflection of inner life, but to witness its very substance. The face is not a mask over the soul, it is the soul in motion. But do not think this knowledge makes you omnipotent. To read hidden intentions is not to know everything. It is to gain probabilities, not certainties. A twitch of the lip may suggest contempt, but it may also suggest discomfort. Averted eyes may mean guilt, but they may also mean shyness. The philosopher must not become a paranoid interpreter who sees lies in every shadow. He must cultivate balance, skepticism sharpened by compassion, observation guided by humility. Otherwise, he becomes not a seer, but a tyrant of suspicion. Still, even probabilities give power. Consider the interrogator who sees the flash of fear when he mentions a name. Consider the negotiator who perceives contempt before an agreement collapses. Consider the lover who notices sadness behind the words of forgiveness and realizes reconciliation is incomplete. Each perception alters the path of life. Now let me turn the mirror upon you. You too betray yourself. Your own face, your own voice, your own gestures reveal more than you wish. You may claim strength while your body slumps, claim joy while your eyes are dull, claim innocence while your lips tremble. Do not imagine you are free from the rebellion of the body. This should humble you, for if you wish to see others truly, you must first see yourself. Stand before the mirror, not to admire but to observe. Watch your expressions when you recall anger, when you recall love, when you recall guilt. Learn the alphabet of your own soul, for only then can you read the alphabet of another's. There is also this: the face does not only reveal emotion, it can shape it. Research shows that when people force themselves to smile, they actually feel more joy. When they frown, they feel more sadness. The body and the mind are woven so tightly that to change one alters the other. This is why discipline of the body is discipline of the spirit. When you master your posture, your breathing, your expressions, you master not only how others see you but how you see yourself. Do not mistake this for hypocrisy. It is not deception to shape oneself, it is creation. All of life is creation, the constant shaping of raw impulse into form. If you must present strength, learn to embody it, not merely to speak it. If you must project calm, learn to breathe it, not merely to pretend it. The false smile is a lie, but the disciplined smile that awakens real joy is a triumph. The false calm is hypocrisy, but the cultivated calm that steadies the heart is mastery. Here is where philosophy and psychology meet. Psychology gives us the data, microexpressions, subtle cues, probabilities of detection. Philosophy gives us the meaning, why it matters, how it shapes freedom, how it transforms love and power. Without psychology, philosophy risks abstraction. Without philosophy, psychology risks triviality. Together, they give us a vision of man as he is, a being who cannot fully conceal, who always betrays, who lives in a dance between mask and truth. And what of society? What happens when a culture learns to read hidden intentions? Imagine a courtroom where every juror is trained to notice microexpressions. Imagine politics where every citizen perceives contempt in a leader's face. Imagine markets where investors see fear in the eyes of those who predict stability. Such a society would be transformed. Deception would still exist, but it would be harder, costlier, more easily exposed. Truth would shine more often, for the masks would no longer hold. Yet again, I caution, power requires responsibility. To use perception merely to exploit is to degrade oneself. To use perception to awaken, to protect, to understand, this is wisdom. The one who perceives must not become a predator. He must become a guardian of reality, one who refuses illusion but also refuses cruelty. Now imagine the most intimate sphere, love. Lovers lie constantly, though not always maliciously. They say, "I am fine," when they are wounded. "I forgive," when they still ache. "I desire only you," when they dream of others. To read hidden intentions in love is to walk a dangerous path. For love thrives on trust, yet trust shatters when illusions collapse. But is not true love stronger than illusion? To know the sadness, the envy, the fear in a partner and still to love is deeper than any blind devotion. Only when masks are pierced can love become authentic. So ask yourself, do you truly wish to see? For seeing may strip away comfort, but it may also give birth to depth. Shallow love survives only on illusion. Deep love survives on truth, however raw, and the philosopher chooses depth over comfort. Now I return to the beginning. What betrays a man? Not his words, but his body. The twitch, the tremor, the flicker. The rebellion of muscles against the tyranny of the tongue. To read these betrayals is to step into freedom. To ignore them is to remain a prisoner of masks. There is a peculiar tension between the desire to be seen and the terror of being exposed. Every human being carries this contradiction. We long for recognition, yet we tremble before revelation. We polish our words so that others may admire us, but we betray ourselves in the corners of our mouths, in the flicker of our eyes, in the trembling of our hands. To study hidden intentions is to step into this tension, to see not only what others try to conceal, but also what they cannot stop revealing. Let us consider culture. Does culture not shape expression? In Japan, restraint is honored and emotions are often subdued. In Mediterranean lands, passion erupts more openly. Yet beneath these variations lies universality. Anger still narrows the eyes, fear still widens them, joy still lights them. Culture may mask, delay, or reshape the stage, but the script remains the same. Ekman's research across tribes and nations proved this. Expressions are universal, though their context varies. To know this is to see beyond culture into nature itself. The body is older than the city, older than custom, older than law. It speaks a language written before civilization. But culture does more. It trains us to ignore. A child sees his mother's sadness even when she says, "I am fine." But as he grows, he learns to pretend not to notice because society rewards politeness over perception. We are taught to respect the mask, not the truth. Thus, most adults are blind not because they cannot see, but because they refuse to look. They accept the theater as reality because the theater is more comfortable than the raw backstage. To reawaken perception is to unlearn this cultural training, to return to the raw seeing of the child, but now sharpened by discipline. Consider also deception on a grand scale. Propaganda, advertising, politics, all these thrive on illusion. A leader speaks of unity, but contempt flashes across his face when speaking of the poor. A corporation speaks of responsibility, but fear creeps into the voice when profit is questioned. A celebrity preaches authenticity, but envy burns in the eyes when rivals succeed. The masses applaud, blind to the signals, lulled by words, but the awakened one sees the contradiction. He hears the discord between mask and body, and once again, knowledge is power. To see deception is the first step toward freedom. Yet there is another side, self-deception. The body not only betrays lies told to others, it betrays lies told to oneself. A man may insist he is content, but his slumped posture confesses despair. A woman may insist she loves, but her microexpressions confess resentment. We deceive ourselves first, then others. To read hidden intentions in others is powerful. To read them in oneself is transformative. For how many of your own masks have you believed? How many times have you told yourself, "I am fine," while your face spoke otherwise? The philosopher must turn perception inward, for the deepest hidden intentions are often our own. Let us descend to an even more subtle level, the microsecond flicker of thought itself. Neuroscience shows that decisions are often made unconsciously before we are aware of them. The hand begins to move before the mind declares, "I choose." The microexpression leaks before the conscious thought forms. This means hidden intention is not always deliberate deception. Sometimes it is the raw pulse of the unconscious breaking through. To read it, then, is not merely to unmask lies, but to glimpse the primal stirrings of the will itself. Here philosophy meets psychology at its root. The recognition that man is not fully master of himself, that the unconscious speaks louder than the conscious. My friend Sigmund Freud, though I did not walk in his time, carried this insight forward. Repression leaks, the unconscious betrays itself in slips of the tongue, in dreams, in symptoms. Microexpressions are but another form of the same leakage, the body speaking what the conscious denies. To see them is to confirm that man is not transparent even to himself. He is a mystery, a riddle, a labyrinth. And what of morality? When you read hidden intentions, should you reveal them? Imagine hearing a friend say, "I'm happy for you," while you catch the micro-expression of envy. Do you confront him? Perhaps not, for not every truth must be spoken aloud. Sometimes perception is for protection, not revelation. You guard yourself against his envy without humiliating him. Wisdom is not only in seeing, but in knowing when to act and when to remain silent. The fool blurts out every truth he perceives. The wise man chooses when truth must be named and when it must be carried quietly. There is also the matter of training. Can anyone learn this? Yes, but not easily. The eye must be disciplined, the mind sharpened, the attention honed. Psychologists have developed tools to train recognition of microexpressions. At first, the flashes vanish too quickly, but with practice, the eye learns to catch them. It is like learning a new language. At first, you hear only noise, but gradually the words become distinct. So too with the face. At first, only a blur, then with training, a library of emotions. But training requires patience, discipline, and desire for truth. Few possess all three. And what of power once more? Imagine a negotiator who perceives fear when the other insists on strength. Imagine a judge who perceives contempt hidden behind politeness. Imagine a general who perceives doubt in the eyes of his officers. Each perception alters the balance of power. Yet the greatest power is not in exploiting others, but in refusing to be exploited. When you see through deception, you cannot be manipulated so easily. You are no longer the puppet of words. You are the master of perception. This is why I call for awakening. For the herd lives in sleep, trusting words, ignoring cues, stumbling into betrayal. The awakened live in vision, seeing truth, guarding themselves, engaging deeply. To awaken is not to become cruel, but to become free. Freedom is the fruit of perception. Now let us bring love into the center once more, for it is in love that the stakes are highest. Lovers crave honesty, yet they lie most to each other, not always with malice but with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of loss. So they conceal anger, hide sadness, deny envy, but the face betrays them. The lover who claims, "I am fine," while the lip trembles with resentment. The partner who claims, "I trust you," while the eyes dart away in suspicion. The husband who claims, "I desire only you," while the gaze lingers too long on another. To perceive these is painful, but is not love itself a call to perceive? To see the beloved as he or she truly is, not as the mask suggests. Love built on illusion crumbles. Love built on truth, though raw, endures. And friendship, how many friendships are broken by unseen envy, by hidden contempt? To notice them may save you from wounds, but it may also allow forgiveness, for you will see that weakness lies in all men. The friend who envies may still love. The friend who shows contempt may still fear losing respect. To perceive hidden intentions is not to condemn, but to understand, to know the human condition as it is, fractured, conflicted, striving, failing. Here too lies the possibility of compassion. When you see fear behind anger, you may choose mercy. When you see sadness behind silence, you may offer comfort. When you see envy behind praise, you may guard yourself without hatred. Knowledge does not demand cruelty. It demands wisdom. Now let us confront the question of destiny. What does it mean that man can never fully conceal himself? It means that truth is stronger than falsehood, that reality always leaks through the mask. This is not optimism, it is fact. Lies may last for a season, but the body will betray them. Envy will show itself. Contempt will reveal itself. Fear will break through. The philosopher trusts in this inevitability, that truth, however hidden, will erupt. To live in this trust is to live in alignment with reality itself. But there is also tragedy, for sometimes the truth we see cannot be changed. You may see the contempt in a lover and know the relationship is doomed. You may see the fear in a leader and know collapse is near. You may see the envy in a friend and know betrayal is inevitable. To perceive is to see both hope and doom. Yet even in tragedy, perception is strength, for it prepares, it arms, it liberates. So here we stand at the end of our exploration. We began with the promise to read hidden intentions. We have seen how microexpressions betray emotion, how subtle cues reveal truth, how perception alters power, how love and friendship are transformed by vision. We have seen the weight and the gift of this knowledge, the dread and the freedom. What remains? A choice. Will you return to blindness, to the comfort of words and masks? Or will you embrace the burden of vision, the gift of perception, the freedom of truth? The philosopher can only point. You must choose. To awaken is to suffer, but to remain asleep is to die while living. I say, awaken. Sharpen your eyes, your ears, your mind. Attend to the fleeting, the subtle, the true. Refuse illusion. Embrace reality. Read the alphabet of the soul written upon the body. In this reading lies power, in this power lies freedom, and in this freedom lies the dignity of one who refuses to kneel before lies. Here I end, not with certainty, but with a pause, for life itself is the endless unfolding of hidden intentions, and every face you meet tomorrow will be another page in this infinite book.